Okay, so here's a video about the 4 rocky inner planets. Now, obviously we have the sun, the great big sun, the centre of our solar system, giving life to our planet, sending out the solar winds, sending out photons. I'll come to the sun another time, but we're going to start firstly with Mercury. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, yet it is also very much possibly the smallest, if I believe correctly, the smallest of the 4 inner planets. Mercury itself has no moons. It's a very quiet, desolate world that we will probably never visit due to the immense heat oncoming from the sun. It has a diameter of just over 3,000 miles, does Mercury. It is very small, pretty much half the size of Earth, maybe a little bit less. It is roughly 36 million miles from the sun, which is probably about almost a third of the distance as to what we are ourselves. Mercury has a mean surface temperature of 167 degrees Celsius. That is a phenomenal temperature. Although it's not the hottest in the solar system for a planet, it is still very, very hot indeed. Now, Mercury takes 88 days to orbit the sun. That is the length of a mercurial year. It is very, very short indeed. But what is also surprising is that Mercury spins on its axis very slowly. It actually takes 59 days to complete a full rotation. So a day on Mercury is 59 days long. Now, I'm not really interested particularly in the composition of the planets as such in this case. It's just a general guide to the 4 rocky inner planets of the solar system. So I'm going to move on to Venus next. Venus is also very much known as the Earth's evil twin. And why it's known as the Earth's evil twin is because it is a very harsh world to live in, if it was actually possible. But it is the same size as Earth. It is roughly 7,500 miles in diameter. Excuse me. And it is roughly 67,000 miles from the sun, which again is pretty much excuse me, in between the distances of Mercury to the sun and Earth to the sun in turn. Now, Venus actually takes 225 days to complete one full orbit around the sun. But actually, it takes longer to spin about on its axis. Venus actually takes 243 days to spin around on its axis, meaning that a day on Venus is longer than its year. Now, another reason that Venus is said to be evil is it has a very crushingly hot atmosphere. The mean surface temperature is a whopping 464 degrees Celsius. That is very, very hot, and the reason for this is the greenhouse effect. There is literally a blanket around Venus, literally a carbon dioxide blanket that is letting hot air in but not letting nothing back out. So all the heat from the sun is kept within the atmosphere of Venus, hence why it is so hot. And again, Venus has no moons at all. Next we're going to go on to familiar territory, our home, excuse me, the Earth. We have one solitary moon that is more important than you think. Pretty much everybody knows this. 365 days to complete one orbit of the sun, and we spin on our axis once every 24 hours. Pretty much 70% water, 30% land, 70% nitrogen atmosphere, 21% oxygen. I think everybody knows all these Earth facts, but that's what makes life sustainable. That's why we are special. That is our home. Hopefully we can look after it for many millennia. And lastly, excuse me, we go to Mars. Our possible second home eventually, possibly. Mars has 2 moons, which are actually captured asteroids named Phobos and Deimos, which basically what that means is the asteroids passed very close to Mars without actually making contact, but the gravity of Mars snared the asteroids, and they now orbit Mars freely. Although they're not a moon like ours, they're very irregular shapes, as are all asteroids, but they're not actually very big at all. Now, there's some interesting facts on Mars tell you that the actual diameter is just short of, well, sorry, about 4,200 miles. So it's pretty much 3,000 miles smaller in diameter than Earth is. The distance between Mars and the Sun is 141 million miles, which is obviously quite a vast distance. Excuse me. Mars itself takes 687 days to orbit the Sun. A very long year on Mars. What is interesting though is it actually takes just over 24 hours, quite close to 25 hours to complete a single rotation itself. And another interesting fact about Mars is it actually has ice caps, like the Earth does. But unlike our ice caps, it's not your foam water ice, it's actually dry ice. It has dry CO2 ice caps, meaning that rather than the ice turning into liquid, it can just turn into a gas straight away. You'll notice on this interesting picture that each of the orbits are elliptical, and what that means is each orbit is not a perfect circle, even though that isn't a perfect circle, but they all have, if you look at each one, a close point and a far point. And then they're known as your perihelion and aphelion. And again, that's something else that I can discuss at a later date. But the main thing is, what you get out of this picture is that each of the 4 rocky inner planets are literally that. Once you move out to the outer solar system, you see that they are all gas giants. The composition is completely different. I will cover the asteroid belt, which is obviously in these areas here, and I'll cover that some other time as well. But the main point to gather here is that the heavier elements of the solar system are actually closer to the Sun. So that is when our solar system formed, all your heavier elements, all your iron, which is obviously in every core of all of these planets, every heavy element was closer to the Sun, and that is probably due to gravity. So all the lighter elements which have been cast out into the further reaches of the solar system are what the outer gas giants are made of. So this has just been a short introduction about the 4 rocky inner planets. Just a brief guide, talk about the distances. One thing I probably didn't mention was the distance between the Sun and the Earth is approximately always 93 million miles, although the Sun probably looks a hell of a lot more closer in the sky. So my name is Adam King, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Thank you very much.